Hi friends, in Planet Earth Dating, it's Sunday, October 24th, 2021. In both the Lynn Life and the Jamie Body Mind, the authorized souls remain only child souls from the deeper, denser dimensions, and all other souls from all other dimensions, as long as the souls are already living by the many Search for Truth rules already given to the Search for Truth community by wiser minds above all of us, and acknowledging that it's been a really long time since souls in this dimension have shown up living by those rules.
That's true.
That we do acknowledge that, but we still ask for that, and that we attempt to live by those rules as host lives ourselves, and that is our full intention. And those rules include doing what we're supposed to do, when we're supposed to do it, the way in which we're supposed to do it, as if we intend to excel. And we have this filming assignment, and originally we were told it was to make a permanent record that would last interdimensionally about what was going on here in this planet dimension combo pack and the dimensions that intersect through this planet dimension combo pack. And our attention has been brought, this last couple weeks, our attention has been brought to the concept that it's too late for planet Earth, and that there is not going to be a movement by divinity to intervene with humanity's destruction.
No, that's right.
That they would like for this to be wrapped up in the gentlest possible way, but however it wraps up is how it wraps up. And so now the highest vibration presences that we're currently able to connect with this past several weeks have been pointing out how we want to not have this tragedy repeat on other planets.
That's
and
right.
Possibly Earth right now, its highest and best calling is to serve as a warning. And since the spirit world has caused this disaster by arming humanity when humanity was not ready for that responsibility, and when there was no training program in place,
That's true.
that to not have that be repeated in other planets. And surely there are other planets where that same trajectory has begun that are not as far along the path to destruction that Earth is on.
That's true.
And maybe while it's too late for Earth, it would not be too late for them. And so maybe out of an altruistic intent, we can somehow help those other planets, and just to help them, and so that it doesn't happen there like it has here. And the issue is arming a species without a training program in place. You've got to have karma delivered instantly, really instantly. And if we think about training a puppy, house training a puppy,
That's right.
anybody who's ever house trained a puppy can relate to that.
That's right.
And that kind of training program needs to be implemented and in place from the spirit world to denser host lives before it's safe to give them fire and explosives and extraction tools, and definitely weaponry. Humanity can't handle weaponry.
No, that's true.
Definitely not. And so on other planets, you can feel that there are other planets that are still early in the game.
Yeah, that's well said.
And to have some intervention on those planets, to just say to the spirit world, hold up, don't do that. We were talking with some scientist yesterday who was talking about the basic fundamental problem being overpopulation, and we said, yeah, maybe 8 times too many humans, and he said, at least, and we said maybe 16 times too many humans, and he said, about right.
Yeah.
So 500 million humans is when the breeding program should have stopped.
I hear you.
And it didn't, and that was quite some time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the weaponry was already engaged, and probably what happened was fighting feelings
That's
between
it.
divinities, and it just doesn't go well.
That's true.
How can we be of service to inspire divine miracles to stop this destructive trajectory on other planets, knowing that it's too late for Earth? Can you please learn from this, all this suffering, all this misery that non-human species are experiencing, and that humans in anything other but than the wealthy countries are experiencing? You know, there's suffering of all species, and even in the wealthy countries, the oppressed are suffering. Gender bias is real. Children are abused. Ethnic minorities are oppressed.
That's right.
Power structures are corrupted and exploited. And that's reality. And now, and it's reality in this country and other wealthy countries as well. But let's start at home.
That's right.
And now what? How can we inspire divinity to prevent this trajectory on other planets where it's still time to stop the destruction? Because over here in this planet they keep saying, oh well, it's too late. But we can feel other planets where this same trajectory has been engaged, and it's not too late.
That's true.
I feel no will to change trajectories.
No interest upstairs.
That means we're not in contact with divinity. That means it's still astral presences.
That's true.
We're too deep in the black hole of corruption. It's sad to be on a planet that's fallen out of reach of spirit.
That's true.
Well, how do we prevent that from happening in other places? Well, those other planets we can feel are inside the same black hole as we are.
Yeah, I feel that feeling also.
Somebody's saying, they had their warning. And I'm sure they did, just like humans, but we're too stupid, and so are they, presumably.
Presumably, yeah.
And what about everybody else? This is not about the bully. This is about the bullied. What about the bullied? Well, maybe what would get a little bit more interest is, what about the karmic implications to the spirit worlds of those planets? Aren't they themselves racking up some bad karma?
That's an interesting question.
And surely we would want to keep those guardian angels of those planets from racking up bad karma.
That feels calm. That feels real.
That's what we've noticed the divinity presences really care about, is helping lesser divinities develop into good, high vibration, higher powers. They care about that.
Yeah, that's true.
And maybe to just show those other spirit world presences, show them planet Earth, have them come here and just watch it and see how it's playing out. And this is the natural end result of not having an effective training program when you arm the dominant species, or the species that you've chosen to become dominant. Inside a context of lying, cheating, stealing, and bullying. We're talking about lying and how problematic it is, and that there are many presences who seem to think that a good lie is as good actions. Just lie about it, and that somehow counts. Which we hope that the listeners can hear how crazy that sounds, because that's crazy. That would be like saying, I know how to engineer a bridge safely, even though you don't know how to engineer a bridge safely.
That's right.
And then to just take your best shot at it.
That's right.
And that's a bad plan.
Yeah.
For him, this message, and why do you ask?
Way up there, They're talking about karma, and they're talking about karmic retribution. They're talking about training programs. They're talking about skipping steps.
Skipping steps. Did they skip the step of training the spirit world?
That's what this feeling could be.
That could be it. Well, that wouldn't work. You would have to train the spirit world. I feel a lack of interest in that.
Very lack of interest feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe what this feeling is the feeling of I, the big presence who feels the feeling, I don't want oversight organizations to say that I need
training,
more training.
Remedial training.
Yeah, thank you, that's the word.
Mm-hmm. But they all do. And, not to just point fingers, like really all of us need remedial training. We're all living unsustainably.
That's it.
And to live unsustainably is to be short-sighted.
That's it.
And surely we can all hear that being short-sighted is not something smart people do, right? Short-sightedness, that's not smart, right? It's not wise. And so therefore we would want to live sustainably. And it's tempting to say, duh, like no kidding.
That's the feeling. It's like that's a very obvious conclusion.
Very obvious. So how strange that we have to point it out, and that there are so many who argue that sustainability doesn't matter. And they might not argue that in so many words, but they argue that with their lifestyles and their actions.
That's true.
So many people also pretending that because karma is delayed, it does not exist. I think that's a really, really big mistake. And they pretend, sometimes the same people and sometimes other people pretend there is no God.
That's
and they just declare it to be so, as if their opinion made a difference,
That's
right?
it.
And their opinion doesn't make a difference. And just because they have not taken the time to hone their psychic skills and direct them upward, that doesn't make God go away.
No.
And it might irritate divinity that we don't take the time to make the effort to bridge the interdimensional gap, but instead say, you do it.
That's it, that's the tone.
That's ridiculous. It's not sustainable. For him is the message. Why do you ask?
Alright, I'm just going to have to start to babble this out, and I might have to back up and correct myself, but somebody upstairs is talking about, it's a larger phenomenon, but they're using an example that we've seen recently, where there is a pair of people, and they're humans on Ground Zero, planet Earth, easy to relate to, people who are talk a lot about having spiritual careers, and they have this series of teachings that they're putting out into the world, and they're Catholics, and I think it's safe for me to say that they're Catholics. And they're putting out this series of teachings that upstairs they feel like has helpful elements, but in their actual way of life, they aren't living by what they're telling people to do.
It's hypocrisy.
Yeah. And so even though the words they're saying, some of them are helpful, there's this feeling underneath all of it that feels yucky and not
rotten,
not safe for the soul. And they're talking about that, and they're kind of zooming in on that feeling, and then zooming in on the feeling about the many tiers of training programs. But I don't know what the point is yet. I know it has to do with hypocrisy.
What we're really trying to do is find meaning in this destruction.
That's what they're talking
and
about.
we would like for this sacrifice to have been worth it. And while it's not likely that this sacrifice of this planet is going to be worth it on this planet, maybe if we step back and look at the bigger picture, it's possible for it to be worth it. But for a sacrifice to be worth it, it must be learned from. If we're not going to learn from it, how is it worth it?
I hear you.
And we really need to remember the serenity prayer, the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, which we think it's putting it backwards. We think it should say the courage to change the things we can, the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah, that's it.
And this is obviously something that we have been trying to change for a really long time, and all that keeps happening is it keeps heading in the other direction faster and more solidly in the other direction.
That's it.
So it's not going to work. That's what no looks like. That's no. That's a no. Therefore, now we need to accept that this planetary system of life is being destroyed in our lifetimes and by the actions of our own species and arguably our own culture.
That's true.
And now to hope that lessons are learned by higher powers is really all we can think of in the moment that would provide meaning for that. For him is the message. And why do you ask? And we understand that all we have control over is our own attitudes, and we really don't, but that's all we can hope to have control over. That life hands us what it hands us, and then it's our responsibility to choose a good attitude and to continue to choose a good attitude in every moment, because in every moment life begins again. And so we can choose good attitudes over and over and over again, doing what we're supposed to do, when we're supposed to do it, what higher powers say to do, higher vibration, what consistent sources of significantly higher vibration say to do. And if we're unable to hear those voices in the moment, to attempt to extrapolate, given what we know about the ambiance and what the situation would call for, what would a good person do?